my friends, welcome back to the channel. So today, before we start, I have some questions. How do you feel about ghosts? And how do you feel about ghost ships? Do you even know what a ghost ship is? Well, today we're gonna cover a little bit of this topic and we're gonna figure out if there is a chance that anywhere in the world there has ever been a Norwegian ghost ship. And spoiler alert, yes, there are some Norwegian ghost ships out there in the stories and in real life. So I suggest you stick around on this video. If you are new here, hello! My name is Gita, Lighthouse. I'm the girl who moved from Latvia to Norway. And basically my channel at this moment is about Norway. I really love true crime, mysteries, and storytelling about interesting facts that are not so well known about Norway on this platform and in general, but yet it's interesting to know. Before we dive into the story of Norwegian ghost ships, let's just understand the basics of what actually a ghost ship is. So by definition, it's a vessel that has been now existing without any living crew on it. I think you have seen ghost ships on different movies or TV shows. I'm sure you have seen that. I don't know, like on the top of my head, I just remember Jack Sparrow and the Pirates of Caribbean. But in general, ghost ships can be part of a folklore, like stories coming back from the folklore. The most common, most probably, would be the Flying Dutchman. For those who don't know, it's a legend about a ghost ship allegedly never able to make to the port, but doomed to sail the seven seas forever. The legend is believed to have started to exist from the 17th century Golden Age time. Allegedly, the ship is glowing in a ghostly light. However, this has never had a real proof. Also talking about the Pirates of Caribbean movie, Captain Davy Jones commands a ship named the Flying Dutchman. It made its appearances in the Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest and at World's End. Or ghost ships can actually be also real, like it's just a wreck that is drifting in the ocean or in the sea with some dead crew members on it or without crew members because something happened or we don't know what happened. It's just like that, which is kind of creepy, but these things actually also happen. So these are existing, those ghost ships. And then there can be just like simple ships that are not active and nothing to work anymore. They're just standing there rotting without anything, or they are just waiting for their time to be cut into pieces. So those are also like phantom or ghost ships. Now let's move to Norway. One of the most famous ghost ships that's been into stories and folk tales and everywhere dates back as far as the 14th century. So at the beginning of the 14th century, the Black Plague, aka Black Death, was breaking out in Central Asia, and steadily it moved into also the other parts of the world. It came into Europe from the south, so the northern countries like Norway and Scandinavia were like, I think we're okay, you know, it's not gonna come up here. It's called anyways. But the Black Death still found its way to Norway, and it found it in a very, very creepy way by means of a ghost ship. But before we dive into actual story of the ship, we need to understand some details about this disease, how it was spreading, who was carrying it around, so that we get the idea about why things happened like they're going to happen in this story. In general, we now know that the disease was very well carried around by rodents like rats and also by fleas. But there is another thing that really facilitated the spreading of this disease. Namely, it was merchants. Yeah, the guys who are traveling around the world, like on ships, trading goods, because, you know, things had to be delivered and they weren't thinking so much that they could also be the reason why this disease was spreading so rapidly around the world. It was in the early 3040s when a Genovese merchant ship came to Sicily and brought the Black Plague there. The news about the disease spread as fire, and people were very scared because they didn't understand the disease and they wanted to protect themselves. So many of the countries actually set up some quarantine rules for the ships entering into their port. Needless to say that this quarantine not really helped. The death was still brought to Europe and was spreading as a fire there. Yeah, am I the only one who just remembered those sad times when we were also supposed to sit in quarantine? Hope it never comes back. It's crazy. Stay with me. We are now moving a little bit closer to the Norwegian ghost ship story. So now we know the background, and we have to understand that the trading in most cases were happening to big trading countries like England. And England, of course, they were all right, those countries in Europe, they're making their quarantine, so we're safe to travel. We can go there, we can do the quarantine and still trade and earn money, and everything's happening, so let's just go. Yeah, sounds like a plan, but what if actually the ship that arrives at the port has no living beings that you can quarantine? Because, this happened. In the year 1349, a ship that was carrying wool was set its destination to somewhere in the north. So they were going on their route, but on their way on the route, people on the ship started to get sick. And one by one, all of them died. Of course, the ship's captain was really scared, and he decided to do some quarantine on board. He was separating the sick crew members from the healthy ones, but in the end it didn't help. As I said, every single crew member died from Black Death. So the ship drifted in the sea without any living soul on it. It was literally now a ghost ship. But this is not all, my friends. The disease continued to live. And it continued to live on the creatures and little animals that were living on board of the ship. Just a tiny bit of luck was necessary, and this would not end up in a disaster. Yeah, and I guess the luck wasn't on the ship's side. I mean, it could just have drifted away in the sea, away from any Scandinavian or northern countries, but no, it didn't happen like that. In the late summer of 1349, probably it was August, the ship stopped and crashed by the port of Bergen, Norway. And to put it in perspective, Bergen at those times, that was a big thing in trading because it was a part of Hanseatic League, and a lot of important trading was happening there. And since it was the Hanseatic League, they had all the facilities, all the brigand houses that are the symbol of Bergen right now, and where I happen to be working, which is I'm literally working in something that is a part of huge history. All of those were Hanseatic Leagues, commercial buildings. So this ship chose a very particularly important place to crash. Contemporary accounts, which tend to be a little bit exaggerated, say that after this ghost ship crashed at the port of Bergen, the third of Norway actually died, and afterwards the Black Death moved from Norway to Sweden, and also from there it was moving forward to Russia, where it got by the year 1351. And now let's just try and debunk it. Whilst it's a really great and interesting story about the ship and how it all started, we should take it with a pinch of exaggeration and imagination, because there is no real evidence that this ship existed. There's no documentation. There's just this folktale that's been living for many years and is quite popular, and many people know it. Also, I think the chances that a random ship traveling towards north would end up somehow on the port of Bergen by itself, I think it's close to zero. How do you think? Write in comments. But anyways, I think it's a great story to tell, and it's one of those examples of the folklore tale type ghost ships. And I think in general there were many other reasons why Black Death actually spread it throughout like the northern countries and also including Norway. Although in this tale we do have some signs of those things that were really the reason, which is like the disease was carried by rodents and fleas and also by other people who were doing the trading from one port to another port all over the world. And there are of course many other documented things that seem more valid and more believable, being the causes of why Black Death actually came to that part of the world in those times. And now that we have had a little bit like a folklore ghost ship, let's move on to a real ghost ship that really existed.